It's Levaughn Smart, am I
Yes.
correct? Okay. And you're the Executive Director of Security for Palm Springs Unified School District.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking to us today. This story basically is just trying to kind of come to terms with what happened really at the end of the last school year. I mean, there was so much bad news from schools. We had school shootings and attacks. It was just ugly. And so there's a lot of concern, of course. I'm sure parents want to know what's going on. Maybe nothing's going on, but like we're just trying to update parents what they can expect, what kids can expect as they go back to school, because it'll be on a lot of people's mind as the new school year starts. You had the statement, and I know that Joan shared it with me, that you've been working to build a robust all-hazards plan to ensure the safety of students, staff, visitors, major components. It was interesting. Digital threat assessment, also behavioral threat assessment. What does that exactly mean?
So as we know, our kids in the K-12 education, more middle school and up, social media, right? That's where their footprint truly is. Yeah. And a lot of what we have and a lot of what has been occurring over the years, at least with social media, is that's where we're getting our threats. That's where things are starting, that's where that leakage is starting to happen. So when people start thinking about these violent critical incidents that occur, there's always leakage that's there. And a lot of times it's on that social media level. So we have a digital threat assessment. So when we get those pieces from those public facing platforms, we can then use that information and kind of find out what's going on, and then roll that into the behavioral threat assessment should we need to. So we can do a deep dive on that threat. Let's say we get that digital threat off of Instagram. Yeah. Somebody says, hey, you know what, Tim just sent us this off of Instagram, says he's gonna shoot up the school tomorrow. We can then start to do a deep dive. We start working with a company, we can do a deep dive, figure that out, find out exactly who the person is, because it might be Tim 101 and we have to figure those things out. Then we can share that information with the police department if we need to move that way. Then start looking at that digital threat or the behavioral threat assessment and start looking at that tool again. If it requires that we bring the law enforcement in, then we'll bring law enforcement in, counselors, psychologists, any of those things, so we can start building out a package so we can get the resources to the kid that the kid may need.
So you already have contacts and strategies as far as harnessing and like harvesting, getting digital information like from social media apps. But basically, are you expanding on that now, or is it just like kind of working more along those lines?
It's working more along those lines. Basically, it's creating a system. Okay. So a lot of times what we do, especially in the security world, and most people say, hey, do this, do that, do the other. Those are just components, and components without a system, without a way of actually using the harvested information or the collected data, does you really no good. So right now what we've done is we've been strategic about it with the support of Dr. Sweezy over the last year, is building out a system that allows us to say, okay, well, this threat was just made. Okay, we've identified who made this threat. Yeah. Now we'll start to bring in the resources that we need, and we'll look to see if this threat is actually, if this person has the ability to carry out this threat, what it would look like. Are their parents involved? Do their parents know? And we can start building a system so we can start being ahead of this. We want to try to prevent as much as we possibly can.
You guys have already used social media though, haven't you, to like, I know that we've done stories where there's been social media threats and you guys already have some tools and can already address those.
Yes, and there are pieces there that are more IT, or I would say IT based.
Sure.
This one, for example, for us, when we start talking about that behavioral threat assessment, we can then use that information to flow into it. So if you look at, for example, I believe we use a product known as Gaggle, and that lets us know when somebody on a school issue device hits one of those trigger words, and we know exactly what's going on. And then it helps us look to see exactly what's been going on. Say if there's talk about self-harm, which happens, there's talk about self-harm, we can still roll that into that digital threat assessment. Yeah. So those things all feed into this piece here, where we now have assessment tools we can use to find all the way across the board, so we can begin to give resources to the kids that need it.
Okay. In a board presentation recently, I believe you had said something that there was a school teacher trainings going on. I know we're going to be getting some video of that. Also, a new camera and access control plan for the district. I was going to ask you about that because I've talked to some staffers who say that it's too easy to get onto some of the campuses around the district. Is that going to address any of those concerns?
So the training, yes.
Yeah.
Access control, yes. Cameras, yes. So again, we go back to the components. They're each singular, they're not going to do it.
Okay.
Collectively, they will. Because we have to realize if we look at the training is also to build situational awareness. Because everybody has to take onus in the safety of the school. It can't be left up to the fact that you have an access control system or a camera, or just one person says, hey, does this person belong here or not? It takes the old saying, it takes a village. And realistically, everybody has to take part in it. So it's building that culture of awareness, that culture and that climate of awareness. So everybody's using all these tools together. So we train them, we give them the ability to build that situational awareness, then to respond to things. Then we also use the access controls. Then we also use SROs, the security staff. Again, we're using people, procedures, and equipment to build out this physical system that actually keeps everybody safe.
Okay. Camera and access control. Is there any new physical, like as you said, physical, are there any new hardware additions that people might notice, new cameras, et cetera?
So there's some things that are for public consumption and some things that aren't.
Okay.
So I will tell you that we are moving in that direction,
okay.
But again, that's not all of it's for public consumption.
Okay, and that's fine. I don't want you to tell me anything you shouldn't say. And I know that we talked with the district and they said, like, we could talk, we just don't want to give too many details because that might give good information away. Security staff training certification as security assessment specialist, what does that actually involve?
So every year with any organization, you should be doing a security assessment every single, and so that runs through everything. Okay. That literally gives you the ability to understand crime prevention through environmental design. Hey, are these the correct locks for the door? It literally goes down to everything. To that level, to that macro level where you're looking at every single thing that could be a problem or cause a problem at a particular site.
I noticed looking at some of the board agendas, a number of new hire requests for mental health therapists, also some campus security officers. Hard for me to tell if those were just attrition related hires or if there's upping in staffing as far as some of these mental health therapists and security, behavior intervention assistants, and also a number of security support personnel. What can you talk about as far as those types of staffing levels?
That would probably fall more into HR. I can say that all of that works together.
Yeah.
Right. So when we start looking at it, and I think Dr. Sweezy did a very good job in detailing what it is, how we want to use the SRO, the security staff, the behavior interventionists, the psychologists, how we want to use them as that team. And sometimes most would look at it as that behavioral threat assessment team, or that team at each school that can help say, hey, you know what, this is a person, Tim has been having issues lately. How do we deal with this? And then everybody is part of that circle, you know, that circle of friends, so to speak, to make sure that we're making sure that the kid gets the kiddo gets the most resources that they can behind them to help them succeed.
Has that already been happening, or is that something that's going to be new?
I would like to believe that it's been happening. I can't speak for every campus, but that is the direction in which we're going.
Okay. In that letter to parents, and I'm almost done, you've said some good things, I appreciate it. Dr. Sweezy said, in May, I'm meeting with our Executive Director of Security and Disaster Preparedness, assume that's you, to review our procedures to ensure that our district and schools are well prepared for any situation. In a nutshell, what's being done or what's going to be done to make campuses safer?
First, it starts with the training.
Okay.
And then it's building that system. Yes, again, we can talk about all those tools because that's what people normally see. They normally see the cameras, they see the access control. They may see more security and go, okay, this is safe. But realistically, it has to be a system. A true, and I will get a little nerdy with the security lingo, but a physical protection system's three things: people, procedures, and equipment. Okay. All those things have to work together in order to give you a safe learning environment. So by training the people, giving them the procedures, and then adding that additional equipment, those components, putting all of them together so they work as holistically, that's when we're truly at a safe point. And we just want to build that culture, build it up so everybody understands the climate and the culture of safety and move in the right direction.
So will kids be safer when they come back to school in August than not that they weren't safe, but like, do you feel that you're going to make sure those kids are safer when they come back to class this fall?
Yes, because Mom and dad send them to us with 10 fingers, 10 toes, upright and breathing. It's our job to get them home that same way. So us educating our staff, and when I say staff, it's not just teachers, it's everybody. Every single person that works for PSUSD will be trained and will be part of that, bringing up that culture of awareness. As we do that, that also increases the safety of our kids and the safety of our campuses.
Okay. And you didn't say this, but Dr. Sweezy said this to the board in his remarks during a meeting. The security team is conducting a door lock assessment for all the doors that we would like to lock during an emergency. Work on access control to provide an additional layer of protection, which might mean that when you visit your children's school, a door will be locked. Is that kind of one of the changes that's being addressed right now, like to just physically kind of lock campuses down more?
And I would probably stray away from the lock campuses down more versus making them more accessible. They're going to still be accessible, and then we're not saying, hey, you can't come in. We're just saying, hey, your children are here and we want to protect your children. We just want to make sure that the business you have here today is school business. A lot of times people don't always see that the other things that are going on, but we just want to make sure that we can protect the kids and we know who's coming in, who's going to be around your kids. Those are your kiddos, and it is our job to make sure that we're bringing people around that are safe and that you want around your kids. That's why we use the Raptor system as well, which is our visitor management system to ensure that certain people are not around your kids.
The Raptor system, is that the ID thing at the front desk? Yes. Okay, what does that involve? Basically, you run your ID card, what happens to it?
And what it does, it runs your name against the National Sexual Offender Database. So we at least know that we don't have any sexual offenders near our kids and our kiddos at any time. So
if somebody did swipe their card through and it came back with a tag, would it be immediate?
Yes.
Okay.
So it would be immediate. It would then alert certain personnel within that campus or within that staff, and then it can be handled accordingly from there.
Okay, and so it's safe to say then that parents, if they visit their kids' campus, they might experience a couple more locked doors than they might have anticipated at the end of last school year.
Yes, and so it would look like it's not saying you can't come in, but yes, we ask for your patience.
That's fair. That's fair. Anything else that you want to address? I mean, again, the only real other thing that I talked to some staffers to say, it's too easy to get onto some of these campuses, open gates, things like that. There's too many access points, and I've heard it from more than one. Is that being addressed?
So all of that's being addressed. So again, this is that thing where now we can start moving in the direction that has been planned for the better part of a year now, and start moving in that direction. Again, COVID, things happen, and I can't speak to those things that were done before my tenure, but now as we move forward, these are the things that we will be addressing. I would say be patient, because a lot of it, even though we say we want it to happen tomorrow, it's not in our hands. I wish Levaughn did have a magic wand and I could just change it all, but we're up to, there's things such as vendors and supply chains that determine how fast we get things moving or in what direction. And honestly, we all have to understand as well that Palm Springs Unified School District does have a climate and a culture of its own, and we could put things in place that might, even if it was a teacher who might say, that's not really where I want to be, as far as that's a little more secure than we wanted. And so it's a delicate balance between what is right for our environment. So one thing that's right for a school in Idaho may not be right for a school in Mississippi. So it all just changes. I will tell you honestly, having done this job previously in a different state, the campuses here are different than the campuses I came from and add a different challenge. So I have to look at it different ways and look for different solutions to help cover those challenges.
Okay. Anything you want to say before I'm done? Because I appreciate you talking and sharing, not too much, but sharing what you can about keeping kids safe. I think parents would appreciate that. Anything else that you want to add, or?
No, I look at it this way. This is truly a system, and we want to make sure we prevent, mitigate, and then respond. And a lot of times we spend a lot of thought and time in the response, but the response means it's already happened. If we can get ahead of it, that's where we truly want to be. But if the response does need to occur, it will occur. And we'll make sure that everybody's trained to a level that is acceptable to form an acceptable response.
Okay.